Hello everybody. Got some apple juice today. I've not had apple juice in a while. That was interesting. But today, I'm going to be talking about the newest Metroid game, Metroid Dread for Nintendo Switch. Now, Metroid Dread was a game that I was not too confident in. I wouldn't say that Mercury Steam, the developer's previous outing, Samus Returns, was bad. It was just emblematic of a lot of trends that I didn't really want to see like further. There was a lot of emphasis on nostalgia, a lot of emphasis on just like the graphical style wasn't as that interesting, even though it was well done. Just a few, I don't know, it just had a few hiccups. It felt like a B tier Metroid game, really, and I wasn't 100% confident in them, cause I don't know. There's just like this stigma for me whenever a new studio gets a Nintendo IP. Usually, like, if they don't get it right out of the gate, they don't always get better. Like ND Cube with Mario Party, like it took them like a long time to like even get to the point where it's as good as the bad Mario Party games, or the real ones like Super Mario Party is like a little better than Mario Party 5. So I didn't really have the most amount of faith in Mercury Steam. It's Steam, right? Not Stream, it's Steam. But I was pleasantly surprised because Metroid Dread is fantastic. On a gameplay level, I think it's the best Metroid game ever, to be frank. The controls take a lot to get used to. There's a lot of buttons you have to press. It doesn't feel natural, but it is something you can adapt to. There's just a lot of flicking between different shoulder buttons and face buttons, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Way better than on the 3DS where you had to press buttons on the touchscreen to do abilities, because that was a nightmare, and it was also really complicated, and it hurt because you'd get hand cramps. So I'm glad that it's better than that. It works though. It's very smooth. Once you get used to it, you feel so powerful. Like, the first time I played the game, it took 25 hours, which is a lot. I'm very slow when it comes to Metroid games. I remember the same thing happened in Super Metroid, even though it's a short game. Like, it took me 20 hours because I just kept getting lost. And the same applies with Dread. But the second time, I'm like halfway through the game and it's been like 3 hours. So that just speaks to how like smooth the controls are once you master them. Of course, Metroid games are non-linear. There's a lot of sequence breaks. It's about collecting power-ups. There's the philosophy where the more you explore, the easier the game is because you find more power-ups, which is cool. And this game is very difficult. I don't know if it's the hardest Metroid game. I think the controls being so smooth kind of negates it being harder than like Metroid 1, because Metroid 1 like sucks. I hate Metroid 1, I'm gonna be honest. I don't like playing it at all. Like, I guess this is kind of a tangent, but the way you respawn with 30 health is atrocious, and like grinding enemies gets so boring that I stop paying attention, and then I die and have to restart, and it's like, oh, I'll just do it with 30 health, and then I just can't get that far. I hate Metroid 1. Whatever. Tangent aside. But Metroid Dread is the best fair challenge in any Metroid game, and in any game in general that I've played for a long time. It is so satisfying to fight these boss fights, because they are really difficult, and the first time you fight them, you get destroyed. Like, I remember there were multiple times when I thought I sequence braked because a boss fight fucked me up so hard that I just thought that it was like natural that I was supposed to go to it later. Like, boss fights do you in like a few hits, because a lot of enemies take health. A lot of the bosses, whenever they hit you, they take a energy tank instead of like 10 or 20 or 30 energy, which I think is applied smartly. It makes it so you actually pay attention, because in games a lot of the time when there's when there's like health bars, you tend to sort of lazily play where you don't really, it's hard to explain, but there are some games where you can take the hits, so you sort of don't properly deal with the enemies. At least I do in a lot of games. But I love games that force you to not do that, like Castlevania. A lot of people aren't too keen on the original Castlevania because it's extremely difficult, but the way it forces you into this playstyle and it forces you to master these very simple mechanics, it's so satisfying. And Dread is the same way. The melee counter is awesome, is amazing to just utilize. Like, the first time I didn't use it that much, but the second playthrough, it has so much utility. I love the sort of connective tissue that behind the abilities. Like, after you get ice missiles, if you freeze an enemy enough, you can counter it and kill it in one hit, even when it's not moving, which is really handy because the enemies get really difficult after the I guess spoilers. I'm just not gonna say like what happens. It's not really like it's not necessary. So no spoilers. I'm gonna not spoil anything too big. In terms of names, I will say that the story is great. The actual events are okay. They didn't really hit that hard. There's no like until the climax of the game. There are a few moments where it's like a cool lore dump or something, but a lot of it is pretty standard for Metroid. There is the element where Samus is in distress because it's on a mission, it needs to do something, and then there's a moment where the plot pivots in a different direction after you realize something, and then the climax kind of changes your understanding of the previous events. That's kind of the same thing as like Super Metroid, with how like the baby Metroid at the end that you were trying to recover ends up saving you, and like that whole element. And Metroid 2, how the baby Metroid, you save it even though you're trying to exterminate them all. A similar idea happens in Dread, where your kind of understanding of the plot shifts a little bit at the end, and it's appreciated. And the ending sequence is very climactic. There's this awesome reveal, or not reveal, just this awesome moment that's really satisfying as a fan of the series to see. And one thing that makes it satisfying is that the final boss is a completely new character. It's not recycled, it's not Mother Brain, it's not Ridley. It's kind of cool that there's like this enemy that you fight that kind of reminds me of Mother Brain. I like how that adds to the lore without shoving it in your face. It's cool. But the final boss is a completely original character, and the fight is brutal. It was so difficult, but it was so fun too. Like, there's this counter you can get on it that's so satisfying, and how difficult it is to do. And it's just like this super fast enemy that's flying around and super acrobatic. And there's a lot of emotional stakes because the aforementioned pivoting of your idea of what the narrative is, what's happening in the narrative. And it's awesome. It's just a great sequence. This game has so much, the game has, it's a 2D game, but has that cinematic flair that I just adore. It feels so high budget. There are sequences when you beat bosses and it plays this extravagant cutscene where Samus flips around and just destroys it in just the most action star, cool, badass way possible. And while part of me misses how estranged Samus was from having a character, they're really a blank slate in the original games, and a lot of people interpreted the loneliness sort of as, I guess, a cool persona where they don't emote as much? I don't know how to explain this without sounding weird. Basically, like, a kind of, like, less, I don't know, Samus's characterization, I can't speak on it fully, because I feel like I would have need to play Metroid Other M to really speak to its depths and how it's changed over the years. But yeah, it's a lot more macho and in your face than just implying this character's cool by what they do. They like show Samus doing flips. They have this cool slide move that I really love. I love how much momentum you get in this game. It really gave me Wario Land 4 vibes with how many opportunities there are to just go through scenery really fast. The Shine Spark returning from the other Metroid games. I don't know if it was in Samus Returns. I only got to I didn't complete the game, and I don't remember how far I got into it. I think I got pretty far though, like Area 5 or something. The Shine Spark is better than ever. It retains the mechanic from Zero Mission where you can save it by going on slopes, and there are these mind-bending puzzles that are so difficult where you have to keep it and get this perfect timing to get power-ups, and bouncing off the wall like a little pinball. Oh my god, it's so much fun. Like I audibly screamed with like laughter and joy whenever whenever it worked. Not that it doesn't work, but whenever I got it right, because it's so difficult to do, especially in the later game. Like there's so many puzzles that like are just like, I don't know, they're mind benders, man. And it's awesome that they even included those and the sequence breaks. That I'm just thinking of this specific sequence break. I don't have anything to say about it. I don't know. Sometimes my brain goes in circles, but yeah, Metroid Dread is fantastic. I'm trying to think of other things to say about it. The graphical art style is good. There are some parts of it that look really good, like the the Chozo areas, the save rooms, the cutscenes. Some parts of the planet look really cool. Others are a little more drab. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the Emmy areas and like, our starting area. It's just like a basic cave. But the scenery does get better as it goes on. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things. The game's music is okay. None of it stuck with me. I don't know. So I wouldn't say it fully goes into being atmospheric. It's kind of like the Prime games and how it's pretty good, but like, I don't know. Actually, it's not like the Prime games at all. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't like the music that much. Yeah, which is very disappointing because the Metroid series doesn't always have high energy bangers for tracks, but like usually they have a few really good ones to pair with the atmospheric ones. But this game, I don't know. It kind of blended together. A lot of modern video game music doesn't hit really that hard for me. I feel like after the limitations were lifted for video game music, it sort of just became worse normal music. That's a topic for another day. But yeah, Metroid Dread is amazing. And what isn't amazing is how the workers, the staff at Mercury Steam is treated, which is not okay at all. Like the way people had their names scrubbed from the menus, the way, not the menus, from the credits, even if they worked on the game for 11 months, which is preposterous, especially considering how high quality the game is. That would be like, if that was in, like, I don't know how the industry works completely, but if I was hiring someone and they had like, oh, I worked on Metroid Dread, this amazing AAA Nintendo game listed, that would be like an instant hire. It just seems like you're robbing them from so much, and it sucks. And like the crunch, apparently there's also a lot of crunch on the team to get the game out, and that's really unfortunate, but also interesting because it speaks to like how much effort was put into this game. Because Samus Returns came out in 2017, they were probably contacted by Nintendo to work on this game in 2018. Now we're in 2021, so a 2 to 3 year development cycle for a 2D game that's only like 10 hours long on average, the first time you play it. And that really speaks to how much effort was put into this game and how talented the team was, even if they weren't treated correctly. I don't know, I salute Mercury Steam. I'm honestly very curious for what they do next. Most people would say, oh, just do another Metroid game. But I'd love to see them take a stab at a different IP. Maybe something new for Nintendo. Maybe a reinvention of an old IP. Yeah, I think I'm glad we have Metroid 5. I love Metroid. But I'm not really dying for another game. Maybe I am. Maybe I will be in like a year or so. But it's like Metroid Dread the series feels complete. It really doesn't feel like any more needs to be done. Like, I feel like in the industry for video games, we should just allow things to fizzle out and be done. Like, oh, that's a good series. Like, we've got 5 games. They're all great. The ones that aren't as good have been updated, like the first 2 Metroid games. We have a solid 5 games. It's a clean number. It's nice. Just let it be. But with video games, that's never the case. That never happens. They never just let something be. If it's successful, they do it until it isn't successful. Especially in the Western side of the video game industry, but Nintendo's equally guilty of that. Like with their Yoshi games, like they finally got a good Yoshi game with Woolly World, not just some crappy half-effort sequel like New Island or DS. And then they're like, oh, we'll just do that again, and it's like, why make the same game again when they could have? I mean, Crafted World is different. I don't know. I'm just rambling about nothing at this point. And that's a good place to end the video. Metroid Dread is epic. 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 And yeah, I'm excited for the future. I think Metroid Dread is one of the best Nintendo Switch games. One of the best original ones for sure. I think it'll be remembered far off from now as one of the classics that define the Nintendo Switch. It's definitely going to be one of the big boys. Like, in the 2040s, kids are going to be like, oh yeah, Metroid Dread, that game slapped. The series, sales-wise, I hope it sells well. I think it's going to do modestly. I can see it selling like 3-4 million, maybe 5 million by the end of it, but like nothing amazing. It's not going to be like a blockbuster. It's going to be like modest success, which is better than every other Metroid game besides like the Prime series and Super Metroid. So that's something, I guess. But yeah. But the fact that they're even making I feel like Nintendo's in a safe space right now where they have leverage on the gaming industry, so they're using that to finally develop some of their back catalog, some of their smaller IPs into bigger ones, because they realize we can't just make sequels to the same shit over and over again. So we've seen expansions of the Pikmin franchises, Metroid franchise. We've seen them, I don't know, just push a lot of smaller things. Not smaller things. They're pushing their medium-sized franchises a little bit more than they did in the Wii and Wii U era, where it just felt like maybe they got one game and then that's it, like Pikmin 3. But like the fact, I could go on about Pikmin. This become a different video. I don't know. Maybe I should save these thoughts for later, but Nintendo has a lot of leverage on the industry, and unlike the Wii era, they're kind of using it to do something, which is good, and also hopefully leads to a prosperous future where they make new games and cool stuff still, and not just ports. Yeah.